Hello everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Jupy, a long-time Dead by Daylight player, Prestige 100 Xenomorph, and current Springtrap main. Now recently, Dead by Daylight announced its Waterfront Massacre Chaos Shuffle mode. Wow, Chaos Shuffle again, someone call the press. But the Chaos Shuffle itself isn't what I want to discuss. It's the fact that Bhvr are trialing a new anti-slugging mechanic in this rendition of Chaos Shuffle. Now for those newer to Dead by Daylight, slugging is the act of downing a survivor, and instead of hooking them, you leave them on the ground. This could be to chase another survivor nearby, or a close objective because of pressure from a flashlight save, or it could just be to be a dick. It's extremely uninteractive as the survivor basically sits there unable to do anything for an extended period, turning Dead by Daylight time into basically mobile gaming time. Slugging is a complex topic because in some scenarios it's vital for the killer to do it in order to get pressure, but in some instances you have people just slug everyone and make the survivors bleed out. Now this was remedied by the abandoned feature, but Bhvr are seeking to tackle all of slugging as a whole, and this Chaos Shuffle is going to be their new trial ground for this. Now the changes that they're proposing are going to be the maximum recovery percentage is being increased from 95% to 99%. Now this is the amount that you could recover by yourself, and then at the end of this you'll be able to recover from it as well. The dying state crawling speed is increased to 1.05 meters a second when it was 0.7 meters a second. For context, this is basically giving you base kit tier 2 tenacity. Then the recovery charge rate is reduced to 0.25 charges a second when it was 0.5 charges a second, sort of slow down the recovery. But the charges needed to heal from the dying state to injured decreased to 12, which was 16. Which means overall it's 48 seconds to recover to 100% with the adjusted recovery charge rate. And then some of the perks are going to be disabled during this trial test, but that's not exactly great because it means that we can't see the repercussions of these perks being in effect. Now, I want to preface, I don't think adding a method for survivors to base kit be able to pick themselves up is inherently a bad thing. It discourages a bad playstyle that's unfun to go against and really uninteractive. Survivors that are slugged on the ground basically have no way to engage with the game, so I agree, we need a way to fix this. However, my problem is the speed at which you can pick yourself up. With these proposed changes, survivor pickup speed will be 48 seconds to pick yourself up off the ground. In an ideal world, I'd suggest 1.5 minutes of being on the ground would allow you to pick yourself up without charging up a meter. It's enough time to have the game dictate, yes, you've been on the ground long enough, and it's clearly just a BM or chase the 4K, which is an unhealthy tactic to begin with. But 48 seconds is literally the amount of time a slightly bad chase takes. In scenarios where you've got a survivor downing themselves under a pallet, and two other survivors come to pick said survivor up, or stun you if you drop the pallet, having a base kit way to infinitely pick yourself up makes those scenarios uncounterable, because you pick up, you get stunned and drop the survivor. You chase the other survivor away, there's still one more to stun you, and oh wow, the survivor can rescue themselves too. It puts the killer into stalemates where they literally cannot do anything, and if the survivor team have a brain, they will pressure a gen while these three survivors are busy. Now, we need to think about the fact that Bhvr have tested this feature before, and it did not end well. Back in 2022, Bhvr proposed the base kit Unbreakable in a PTB, and it had a similar time to pick yourself up of 45 seconds. Now this absolutely sucked to play in because half the matches would be survivors trying to use dirty tactics to keep their teammates safe. However, the reason this feature was even introduced was because the devs also added a feature called the Finisher Mori that straight up automatically killed every survivor if every survivor was in the dying state or hooked. Now the devs thought this was a good idea on paper, but in the end it ended up incentivizing slugging even more, which meant if you weren't utilizing the Finisher Mori to its fullest, you couldn't snowball pressure due to the base kit Unbreakable. Now the devs are suggesting adding the same pickup mechanic to the survivor side with nothing to compensate on the killer side? Insanity. Now, yes, I get that this is a trial. It's not confirmed to be coming to the base game, but in the scenario that it does, it incentivizes bully squads and playing to piss the killer off more than actually interacting with objectives. In my opinion, the only scenarios where slugging is bad is because of BM or slugging for the 4K, because we need to let people know that they don't have to fight for their lives for a 4K. A 3K is a win. You don't need to ruin the day of the other survivor to fuel your ego. Every other instance of slugging is a part of the game that just needs to exist. Now, another point a lot of people make is that the fact that Bhvr have added other features to counter tactics on the killer side before, such as the anti-camping system or adding base kit BT to de-incentivize tunneling. Now, the reason these are different is because camping and tunneling are far more viable strategies than slugging. Now, let me elaborate. Slugging is by far a riskier strategy than tunneling and camping. Both tunneling and camping can secure kills easily, however slugging has many elements that cause it to be a risk. You could easily lose track of the survivor if they crawl elsewhere, meaning you potentially lose the kill. There's also a metric fuck ton of anti-slugging perks to begin with, such as Unbreakable, Exponential, We're Gonna Live Forever, that are arguably stronger than the anti-tunneling perks to begin with, and so on, which are kind of designed to counter this. Now, Exponential especially is literally one perk slot of the survivor side's 16 available that works for the entire team. Finally, slugging if done at a bad time results in dick-all pressure. It's something that in realistic scenarios only gets value in very specific circumstances. Also, since the knockout rework, you can't really go into a match with the intention to slug anymore. It isn't anywhere near as effective as a tactic in that regard as planning to hard tunnel someone or camp someone before you've even loaded in. Now, yes, slugging does ignore hook perks like Decisive Strike, but you also don't benefit from hook perks as well. So if you're running perks like Pain Resonance, you're running Pop Goes the Weasel, you're running Grim Embrace, you're running Furtive Chase, any of these sorts of perks, you get zero value from them if you are focusing on a hard slugging playstyle. Pretty much a TLDR though, slugging's risky to do for the killers, it can ruin your pressure if done at the wrong time, has metric fuck tons of counterplay, you could just straight up lose the slug survivor if they go crawl somewhere else. And honestly, okay, I agree. We should have a way to counter at base kit, but said mechanic should be a last resort if you've been slugged for an extensive amount of time, not a way to force the killer to down you 50 times before they can actually pick you up because you chose to die at a pallet. This isn't the issue that Behavior need to be tackling right now, in my opinion, and if they do try to implement it, put it with a 1.5 minute timer instead of 45 seconds. We do not need to add more benefit to Swift and Bully squads, and I haven't even mentioned Sabo squads. The literal best counter to that is slugging. So what's the game plan now? They have two survivors go for Sabo plays, one sits on gens, and then it's impossible to get pressure. You either leave the first survivor on the ground because you can't hook, or you chase the other survivor and then the first survivor gets picked up by themselves. It's a free anti-pressure tool on a 45-second timer, and that's just not interactive in any way. This is literally a change they proposed years ago, and everyone hated the second it hit the PTB and caused a lack of trust and behavior for months for even suggesting such a feature. I don't know. I guess time will tell how this test goes. I won't be able to document on it myself, I'll be on holiday all of July, but I'm hoping they backstep this, or at least make the time you're in the ground before you can pick yourself up, like, a bit longer, because 48 seconds is just ridiculous. Or maybe a way to track if a killer is slugging for bad reasons. I really don't know, because Behavior don't have a great track record for releasing stuff to fix these issues. Maybe have it so if another survivor is nearby, you can't pick yourself up. It needs to not be abusable by squads, is just the main thing. Abusable particularly by squads who will camp the pallet, making it a lose-lose. I don't know. I guess we'll see in the Chaos Shuffle mode and hope it's not as bad as we think, or they backpedal and tweak it. Thanks for watching. Weekly uploads will likely be halted for a few weeks while I go on holiday, but when I get back, I'll be testing the new Survivor chapter and the new Deep Sea Xenomorph skin, along with more Springtrap content. Hope to see you in the next show.